How's it going, Laser Bruces? I'm Bobby Sixkilla and welcome back to Route Double. It looks like it's time for some backstory. We're going to be learning about what happened 9 years ago that has turned Natsuhiko into this, shall we say, slightly cynical young man. Like, he's not old, but he certainly acts like an old person because he's such a cynical motherfucker. When you got Mashido, who's the absolute opposite of him, who's like selfless and caring and willing to throw herself under a bus to save people, you know? Anyway, let's carry on. That's right, it was that day, 9 years ago, when I tried to go somewhere with Yuuri. And Mashido tried to stop me. The conversation they had in the distant past came back to life in his heart. Stop it, Natsuhiko, it's dangerous. You shouldn't go to a place like that. Huh? What's wrong, Mashido? You chicken? Well, fine, I guess I'll ask Yuuri then. What's that supposed to mean? Lately you've been Yuuri this and Yuuri that. Well, don't tell me you're jealous. But you're just a tomboy. Fine, I don't care about you anymore, Natsuhiko. Go buzz off with Yuuri and see if I care. I shook off Mashido's warning and still went there. And because of that, Yuuri... Natsuhiko's pulse intensified and his breathing became rough. Bitter regret stained his heart. You're right. It did happen, didn't it? I'm happy with that. Back then, you were the one who acted on his whims. He felt her words pierce his heart. 9 years ago, Natsuhiko took Yuuri and shook off Mashido's attempt to stop them. They ended up in an accident. Perhaps Mashido felt responsible for that incident, too, for failing to stop them. But Natsuhiko was clearly more in the wrong, which is why... But still, that's exactly why... I don't want you to put yourself in danger. Please, Mashido, let's just report it to the police and end it at that. That's just about all we can do in any case. I see, you really have changed then, haven't you, Natsuhiko? Mashido smiled in resignation, but a moment later her expression turned into anger. If you really love being safe so much, then just lock yourself up in this house forever. Huh? I can't count on you for anything anymore, Natsuhiko. Goodbye. Hey, wait a second, Mashido. Mashido flew out of the room as if to shake off Natsuhiko from stopping her. Confused, Natsuhiko tried to chase after her, but by the time he'd left the house, Mashido was already nowhere to be found. The evening rain had stopped and the stars were somewhat visible. What's with her? Natsuhiko muttered as if to spit out his bitterness. He had no clue what made Mashido so mad. I didn't say anything wrong, did I? Natsuhiko looked to the sky with that shaky conviction of his. Sparkling stars dotted the whole sky. The stars were spread out far apart and never seemed to overlap, much in the same way that human hearts never do. The distance between them all was hopelessly far. Even if we'd known each other for years, there are still several things we don't understand about each other, huh? With that thought in mind, he turned around and went back inside. He headed toward his room without stopping by the living room. He sat in his bed and began to think about what happened with Mashido, when suddenly he heard a knock on the door. Hikura? Oh, Yuuri. It's open, feel free. Pardon the intrusion. Yuuri timidly walked into Natsuhiko's room. What's wrong, Yuuri? You don't usually visit my room. Well, it's because I heard Mashido yell in a real loud voice. Did you hear that conversation we just had? Just a little. Apparently, since they talk so loud, Yuuri even heard it in the living room. Natsuhiko looked around awkwardly as Yuuri questioned him. Mashido seemed mad. What happened? Well, I'm not really sure what happened either. Natsuhiko summarized the conversation he and Mashido had had. I wonder what made Mashido so mad. Yuuri frowned at Natsuhiko as she responded. I think I might have an idea, but what is it? Maybe Mashido wants you to return to being the Hikiden you were in the past. I think she's sad because she realized just how much you've changed from the righteous Hikiden who stood up for justice in the past. Huh? The past? Yuuri smiled slightly as she nodded. Back when we were kids running around town. She just wants you to go back to being the Hikiden from back then. The Hikiden that would help anybody out who was crying or in trouble without a second thought. The Hikiden that helped both me and Mashido out. I see. Certainly enough, Natsuhiko did have a stronger sense of justice and initiative back then. I was like that back time too. Natsuhiko remembered the past once more. He remembered when a sense of justice compelled him to save Yuuri. 10 years ago. After the day they read a book together, Natsuhiko and Yuuri quickly became friends. They wouldn't just play together. When they met at the park, Yuuri would also come visit Natsuhiko's house to play. Pardon the intrusion. Sure, come on in. It was his first time having a girl come to his house to play, so Natsuhiko was a little nervous. Wow, Natsuhiko, your house is so big. Really? I guess. It certainly was a big house, but it didn't stop it from feeling lonely from time to time. Surely it would make it more lonely. His father had already passed away and his mother came home late, so Natsuhiko was happy to have a visitor. Yuuri took notice of the digital photo frame decorating the corner of the living room. Is this a picture of your mum, Natsuhiko? Huh? Oh yeah. The digital photo frame had a picture of Natsuhiko with his mum. It was a picture taken just the other day. His mother was smiling faintly with her hand on Natsuhiko's shoulders. She seems like a nice mum. Huh? Nice? Sorry to break it to you, but mum's not that nice. She is smart and cool though. No, I'm sure she's nice. I can tell by her smile. I guarantee it. Your guarantee doesn't really... Natsuhiko loved his mum, but it was a little awkward hearing someone praise her. More importantly, let's go play something. Like spinning tops. Well, I brought a book. How about we read together? Huh? Again? You don't want to? It was so fun the other time, so it's not like that at all. Okay, let's read together then. Yuuri smiled in relief at Natsuhiko's frantic attempt to smooth things over. As they read the book together, it eventually started to get dark outside the window. Huh? Is it already late? Don't you have to go home? Huh? Let's play just a little longer. But it's already 5, isn't it? Yeah, but... It's almost dinner time, see? Come on. Natsuhiko pressed her as he showed her his watch. Yuuri turned her face away as if to run from the time, but... Okay, I'll go home. She eventually gave up. See you later, Natsuhiko. Okay, bye, Yuuri. Yuuri nodded and left the house. She looked so sad to Natsuhiko as she left. But a little while after he returned to his room. Huh? He noticed Yuuri's book had been left on the desk. Did she forget it here? Oh well, I'll go bring it back to her. Natsuhiko left the house, book in hand. He knew where Yuuri lived. He'd walked with her to the front of her house once after they played in the park. I've never been inside Yuuri's house before, huh? I wonder if I'll be allowed inside. I wonder what Yuuri's room looks like. Natsuhiko walked on, a little nervous for some reason. Eventually he reached familiar municipal housing. Oh, this must be the place. Natsuhiko cleared his throat and pressed the doorbell. And after a while, Yuuri came out with a dark look on her face. Natsuhiko, what's wrong? Well, you forgot your book at my place, so I came to... As Natsuhiko started talking, an angry voice suddenly erupted from the house. Why did we have to move to a creepy town like this for... like this all for that brat? You expect me to turn down that pile of money? Natsuhiko's body shook at the sound of those violent voices. But they didn't stop there. Look at you. You were so damn happy when they recommended we move, weren't you? I didn't know the town was this creepy. All those damn cameras everywhere you go, what the hell? A man and a woman appeared to be fighting. Huh? What? Don't tell me those two are Yuuri's mum and dad. When Natsuhiko's father was still alive, he never saw his parents fighting. When he looked at Yuuri in bewilderment, she just smiled at him. Thank you. Huh? Thank you for bringing the book back. No problem. As he handed the book back, Natsuhiko noticed something. Yuuri's smile seemed horribly sad compared to her usual smile. What the hell's with this town anyway? Damn espers everywhere. The hell's a communicator? Disgusting. You damn gave birth to one, woman. I told you to abort it. A little late to complain about him now, huh? Oh, don't act like this is all my fault. You're the one who was obsessed with moving here, so you wouldn't have to get off your lazy ass to work. Man up for once. Shut it, woman. It's not my fault there's no work for me. Your abusive words rang out endlessly. Yuuri shrank in fear. Yuuri, are your mum and dad fighting? No? Of course they are, and it sounds like they're saying bad things about you too. So you want me to go stop them? Don't. Natsuhiko couldn't help but fall sullen at her sharp voice. Natsuhiko, I'll be fine. But, I'm sorry, I'll see you later. The door closed in front of Natsuhiko's face. Natsuhiko left, unable to do anything else. He thought to himself as he walked in the darkness, this is unacceptable. Why must Yuuri be forced to make such a sad face? And after thinking his hardest, even as a young boy, Natsuhiko connected the dots. The reason Yuuri was always so reluctant to go home was because of those parents. In that case, eventually he began to think, was there a way he could change Yuuri's sadness into a smile? Was there a way he could save her? I'll save her. As he traversed the dusk-bathed streets, The young boy made a resolute decision. Back then, Natsuhiko certainly did want to save Yuuri. He would act according to a sense of justice without considering any complicated things like other people's familial circumstances. Just as Yuuri had said, he once did have that sort of quality to him. But he still didn't want to believe that the past him was the better him. Yeah, I agree, the past you is the better you. But say, Yuuri, is my current way of thinking really all that bad? Huh? Back in those days, I did indeed act based on my own righteousness and on my own initiative. But that was only because I was a kid with childish thoughts. And look what that got me. In the end, I only ended up endangering someone dear to me, didn't I? So are you saying that you were wrong back then? Yeah, that's why I wanted to change. To be calm, composed, and careful not to drag those around me into danger. I wanted to grow, even gradually if need be. That was the least he could do to atone for what happened to Yuuri. And yet Yuuri herself looked Natsuhiko in the eye and responded, "That's wrong, Hikiden. That's not growth, that's stagnation." Yuri's tone of voice changed abruptly, startling Natsuhiko. It couldn't be, he thought as he looked at Yuuri. As he looked at her, there was a look in her eyes that was different from normal. Ever since that day 9 years ago, time has stopped for you, Hikiden. Oh shit, and the one who stopped it was me. Save! Panic save! This one? I'm gonna leave Mashido at max and hope for the best. Yuuri stopped my time? I'm sure Mashidon still blames herself too harshly for it. And that very same Mashidon is putting herself in great danger, yet you're still gonna disregard her, Hikiden? You need to worry about Mashidon the same way you worry about me. If you don't, then time will stay stopped for you forever, you know? Yuuri, what are you saying? You've been kind of strange lately. You're right. It's kind of odd to say something like that all of a sudden, huh? But I'm not the only thing strange lately. Most likely everything is strange. Everything you've seen and heard. Once Yuuri said that, Natsuhiko fearfully looked at his watch. Oh, here we go. And of course it had broken before he'd noticed it. Again? Upon seeing his broken watch, Natsuhiko had realized something. September 13th had long come and passed. The silver of the piece he had obtained had long since been lost. And thus Natsuhiko was torn away from his peaceful recollection and returned to reality. Is this reality though, or is that reality? In reality, Natsuhiko was standing in front of a collapsed emergency staircase. Beside him were an anxious Mashido and a frightened Yuuri. They'd gotten separated from Sally and were searching for an escape route. As he remembered what happened that fateful night, Natsuhiko ground his teeth. I didn't believe Mashido at first when she told me about the terrorist plot. And this is the result of my disbelief. Natsuhiko was filled once again with regret. What I need to do first is to get Mashido and the others out of here. Natsuhiko rushed to the stairwell and looked up. Is there any way at all to climb this thing? If I can at least get Mashido and the others out, then... As that thought crossed his mind, a small figure appeared at the top of the stairs. Salia? Once Natsuhiko yelled, she looked down at them. How'd it go? Were you able to beat those guys? I'm sorry, it was an embarrassing defeat. As soon as she said that, Natsuhiko heard the sound of a drop of water dripping down. A red stain formed on the floor, a stain of Salia's blood. Salia, you're hurt? You suffered defeat? Don't tell me those guys... Right when I knocked those two out, another one appeared, and then I got shot. Now that he thought about it, the enemy did show up with guns last night. Crap, it was so obvious. Why didn't I even consider that possibility? Salia glanced at the painful looking wound on her arm. The enemy has exceptional physical strength and unknown numbers. Our odds don't look good. Then what do we do? All we can do is run. As quickly and as far away as possible. Right as Natsuhiko found himself at a loss for words, a voice rang out on the intercom. According to the roll call on the ground floor, evacuation of all staff members has been confirmed. In the unlikely event that anyone besides staff members have been left behind, please escape through Area 5 and 6 immediately. As she heard the announcement, Salia sighed in relief. That means Dr. Tenkawa managed to escape. So all that's left is for us to evacuate too. Okay, Salia, then come down here, let's escape together. No, I can't climb down with this arm. I think it'll be difficult for you guys to climb up too. But if we hesitate, the enemy's likely to catch up to us. So let's split up and escape separately. No, will you be okay by yourself, Salia? I will, but there's no time to speak my reasoning. So let's use BC. Right after Salia said that, her mental voice rang out in Natsuhiko's head. Her clear, high-speed thought process Natsuhiko gasped as it all came rushing into his head in a single instant. Salyu? Yuuri and Mashiro looked up at Salyu in the same way. Salyu? Me too, Salyu. Natsuhiko forced a smile and spoke up. Okay, leave these two to me. Promise me one more thing. That we'll all live long enough to meet again on the outside. Promise. And with that, Salyu disappeared. Let's go, you two. We need to keep our promises, Salyu. Mashiro and Yuuri nodded meekly, and then the three of them ran off once more. The broadcaster said that the staircases at Area 5 and 6 were safe. The three of them walked through the connecting passageways toward that goal, but once they left Area 3 and approached Area 4's outer ring, they found it was wreathed in flames. Oh no! Hikaru, what do we do? Yuuri and Mashiro looked at Natsuhiko with concern. Decisively, Natsuhiko answered, Let's cut across. Huh? There's no guarantee that the staircase at Area 5 will stay safe forever, so we need to get through Area 4 as quickly as possible. True, and luckily enough it doesn't look that impossible. Yuuri, what about you? Think you can make it? Yeah, I'm okay. Okay then, let's go. And with that, the three of them walked into the fiery area. Get down low so you don't breathe in the smoke. Cover your mouth with a sleeve. Yeah. The three of them crouched down and walked on the floor. The flames flickered against the walls as the heat waves closed in on them. Ugh. Eventually, Mashiro rose her voice from behind. Natsuhiko turned around in shock to see her rubbing her eyes painfully. What happened? Smoke got into my eyes. It's okay, I'll guide you by the hand. You can close your eyes, so just run. Okay. Natsuhiko took her by the hand with his right, and Mashiro gripped back firmly. You too, Yuuri. Right. Natsuhiko grabbed Yuuri by the hand with his left and ran ahead, guiding the other two, and then somehow managed to slip out of Area 4. The three of them rushed into the connecting passageway to Area 5. The security gate closed behind them automatically, making sure that the flames couldn't follow. Are you two okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Relieved, Natsuhiko led the two girls as they walked through the passageway. But as they turned the corner, they found another fire and wait. No way! You can't get through? The flames in the passageway were intense. Anyone who would attempt to cross through them would surely catch on fire. Crap, we're caught between the fires! When that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind, Mashiro groaned. Mashiro, are you crying? What's wrong? Did you get burned somewhere? No, I just suddenly felt like I've wronged everyone. Mashiro muttered through her sobs. When I heard about the terrorist plot, I never thought it would turn out like this. That's a terrorist plot. What the fuck did you think was going to happen? Sorry. I got Salyu hurt too, and got us all caught between the fires. I should have listened to you, Natsuhiko. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I dragged everyone into this. Dragged? That word shook Natsuhiko's heart. No, I'm the one who dragged everyone into this. Huh? If I hadn't gone down when the alarm went off, I wouldn't have dragged us all into this. Regret suddenly filled Natsuhiko's heart. He dragged those precious to him into danger once again, just like he did 9 years ago. This time not just Yuuri, but Mashiro and Salyu too. The headache he'd forgotten came back stronger, except now it was accompanied by the pangs of guilt. I'm the one at fault, Mashiro. You did nothing wrong. So please don't cry. Mashiro wiped her tears and looked at Natsuhiko. No, Natsuhiko, don't say that. You're back to your old self now, aren't you? At the very least, I'm happy for that. Her words were tinged with both gentleness and slight resignation. An intense pain ran through Natsuhiko's chest. Damn it, what do we do? Smoke was drawing near from around the corner, but he couldn't come up with their next move. At that very moment, Yuuri spoke up. Mashiro is wrong. Huh? Yuuri? Hikaru, you haven't come back yet. Time has still stopped for you, just like it has been ever since that fateful day 9 years ago. Natsuhiko couldn't believe what he saw. That was the same warning Yuuri had given him on September 13th. It still stopped? Yes, and that's why I have been rewinding your memory over and over, to get your time to move once more. Even if those memories lead to today, even if those memories hide a bitter truth. Natsuhiko still couldn't quite understand what Yuuri was saying, but I do understand what's going to happen now. That was something that Natsuhiko had already come to digest. Whenever Yuuri says these things, that bizarre phenomenon always occurs, doesn't it? Natsuhiko looked at his watch. It had already began to tick away the time. The date was 9:14, the time 6:59. 2 days before this incident. I see. That was the day our daily lives came crashing down. His vision went dark. and in the darkness he heard her voice. The true beginning has only just begun. It's time to face the truth. So please, Hikiden, try not to avert your eyes. And as Yuuri appealed to him thusly, Natsuhiko's consciousness returned to September 14th. Natsuhiko peacefully awoke from his sleep that day. Although his morning wasn't particularly unpleasant, he still felt somehow depressed. A sound of rain could be heard from outside the window. It had temporarily let up last night, but it appeared to have started pouring down once more. Natsuhiko headed to the living room to see only Yuuri and nobody else. Sally was probably still sleeping. Where's Mashido? She hasn't come. Thought so. Mashido would often not come to the house the day after a fight. Yuuri glared at Natsuhiko judgmentally. Don't glare at me like that. If anything, last night was Mashido's fault. She suddenly said something absurd and then got mad because I wouldn't believe her. You still should have believed in her then. No way, that's crazy talk. Natsuhiko was a little dejected that even Yuuri was criticizing him. Say, Yuuri, I'm sure even you understand how seriously the city takes its public order, right? There's no way a terrorist plot could unravel here, could it? Even if it did, what could we do? Fight the terrorists empty-handed? This isn't some Hollywood blockbuster, you know. True, but Hikiden, you might regret not doing anything. Regret not doing anything? Why? I just get that sort of feeling. Yuuri said no more. The rain outside sounded somehow softer than silence. Well, anyway, don't worry about Mashido. I'll make sure to follow up on her. Yeah, that would be best. Once Natsuhiko gave in to the pressure and said that, Yuuri smiled with her whole face. But still, what should I actually do? Is there something I can do about that both Mashido and Yuuri would agree with? The moment that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind, Salyu showed up in the living room. You awake, Natsuhiko? Just got up. You, Salyu? Me too. I overslept a little. Salyu looked around the room and continued. Where's Mashido? She's not here today. Why not? Try and take a guess. Salyu tilted her head in confusion. Well, I think she'll come tomorrow. She'll be all like, see how much you need little old me now? And stuff. I already do. No Mashido means no food. Yeah, sorry, but we'll have to settle for meager breakfast today. And with that, Natsuhiko tossed some bread into the toaster. But she gets paid to do it. She can't not show up to work. And still, it's been one thing or another every morning lately, eh? It wasn't like this at all just a few days ago. But today's event, Mashido's absence, was particularly rough on Natsuhiko's heart. He honestly believed that his daily routine would continue forever, and yet, would it really? And yet now that question rose up in his heart. One day my peace could end. One day I could lose those close to me. One day my precious memories could crumble. Each of those things is clearly possible, so I just have been averting my eyes from the inevitable. It was a question he put little thought into, but it nonetheless tore at his heart. Wait, why am I even worrying about this? Natsuhiko shook his head as if to clear of unnecessary thoughts. Yuuri just watched him silently. The morning bell rang as Natsuhiko and Salyu entered the classroom. Whew, looks like we made it. Mashido's not here. Ah, you're right. Now that you got a good look, Mashido's seat was empty. Couldn't even see a bag nearby. Guess she's taking the day off, maybe she caught a cold. Natsuhiko said as he sat in his seat. Eventually Ina entered the classroom. Okay, good morning class, let me take the roll. Akagawa. Here. Ino. Here. Oda. And thus roll call commenced. But as she eventually got to Natsuhiko's name, Tenkawa. Here. Toba. Miss Toba? Huh? Is Miss Toba taking today off? That's odd. She didn't contact us beforehand. Huh? That could only mean that Mashido was in a rush and skipped school without permission. Even though she was not usually the type to be truant. Don't tell me. So we're the only ones who have noticed this, aren't we? So in that case, we've got to thwart the terrorism ourselves. That idiot, don't tell me she actually plans to try and stop a terrorist plot. But judging how Mashido was yesterday, that did indeed seem plausible. I don't know on what basis she believes there's an actual terrorist plot, but whatever it is, it's definitely not a problem that a mere high schooler can solve. In fact, Mashido's actions could cause some sort of danger. That was the vague premonition he was getting. I guess I'll go look for her after school. Afterwards, Natsuhiko continued his classes somewhat absent-mindedly. And as lunch break began, there was still no sign of Mashido. Specialty schools like Rokume Academy run full-time classes every second and fourth Saturday, So to prepare for afternoon classes, Natsuhiko brought some bread and ate it in the classroom. He and Sully spoke sparingly. That sandwich good? It's okay. I see. Without Masato as their mood maker, conversation just wasn't happening between them. I never thought this would be how I learned how much of a blessing it was to have Masato around. The moment that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind, an announcement came streaming out of a speaker affixed to the classroom wall. This is an emergency broadcast. We've just received a report that a dangerous object was set inside school grounds. Students, please remain calm and follow faculty instructions. Please evacuate to the schoolyard for now. Natsuhiko gasped, and the whole class stirred in unrest. A dangerous object? For real? No way, could this possibly have something to do with the communication they've been talking about on the news? No, what the heck? Why are they targeting our school? The students' agitation created a positive feedback loop, quickly turning the classroom into a turbulent echo chamber. A dangerous object? Like what? If they need to evacuate the students, then I'll assume it's either an explosive or a gas bomb. Natsuhiko choked on his words. No way, you mean Masato was right? The moment Natsuhiko considered that possibility, Ina came rushing into the classroom. Class, you heard that announcement, right? Her voice was more forceful, her expression colder than usual. Life is long, so pipe down and listen up for now. First, everyone take your seats. The students sat in their seats as instructed. Ina quickly scanned the classroom for empty seats. Okay, so that's everyone with the exception of Miss Tolpa. So now we begin the evacuation. Line up in seat order and follow me. The students muttered amongst themselves as they nervously stood up. At the very least, it looks like they're serious about the dangerous object. Then assuming there really is a terrorist or whatever, what if Masato went to search for them and actually ran into them? Impossible, such a stupid coincidence could never happen. But despite his rejection of the idea, he couldn't shake off the anxiety he felt. Without thinking, Natsuhiko suddenly stopped in his tracks. What's wrong, Mr. Tinkawa? Get in the evacuation line. Okay. As he answered, Natsuhiko heard a voice in his ear. But Hikiden, you might regret not doing anything. Natsuhiko gasped at those words. They were the words Yuuri had said to him this morning. And 1 second later, Natsuhiko opened his mouth. No, Professor. And out came the words he never expected to say. I'm sorry, but may I leave early? Huh? Ina and Sally opened their eyes in surprise. Natsuhiko? What are you talking about? Let's just evacuate first. Yeah, I guess that would make sense. But I'm worried about Masato's safety. It was something that the usual Natsuhiko would never say. I'm really sorry, but I'm leaving. Huh? Hey, wait! He heard Ina, but he chose to ignore her. He flew out of the classroom to find Masato. When he got outside, the streaks of rain more or less had abated. But thanks to that, he could search outside without needing an umbrella. The only problem was that he had no honest idea where Masato could be. So for now, he just took out his PDA and tried to call her, but damn it won't connect. It was ringing, but Masato wouldn't pick up. Is she still mad about yesterday? He was fine with it if she wouldn't pick up. If she couldn't pick up due to injury or other danger, that would be a different story though. Oh well, I guess I'll go look on foot. The moment he made that decision, he heard Sully's voice from behind. Natsuhiko, what are you trying to do? Huh? Oh, you followed me. Because you suddenly ran off. More importantly, why didn't you evacuate as you were told? It should be obvious. I'm looking for Masato. For Masato? Why? Actually, last night Natsuhiko gave a simple explanation of what happened last night. Terrorists? That's... Well, I think she's somehow mistaken, but for now, yeah, that's what we're going with. But if that's true, then there could be danger involved, in which case, I need to protect you. I see. Actually, he didn't see. As always, he didn't quite understand her, but there was no time for a discussion. Okay, then let's search together. Roger, any guesses where Masato went? None, but we need to start searching regardless. And with that, the two of them ran into the rain. Natsuhiko and Sully checked the whole town. They combed through every place Masato was likely to go, but there was no sign that they would find her. Damn it, where the hell is Masato? You should rest a bit. We've already been running around for 20 minutes. I guess you're right. Natsuhiko combed through his disheveled hair and took a few deep breaths. Damn it, Masato, you're not making it any easier for us. As he muttered that, Sully responded in a cold voice. You've been cursing this whole time, Natsuhiko. If it's that frustrating, then you don't have to look for her. Besides, you think Masato's mistaken about there being terrorists, don't you? I may not believe her about the terrorists, but regardless, I'm still worried about her. Our friend is suddenly gone. You can understand that I'd be worried, right? No, I don't understand. Your words and your actions contradict. If you don't believe Masato, then why don't you just leave her alone? What? According to you, there are no terrorists. In that case, leaving Masato alone would be the obvious thing to do. That's kind of dry. Natsuhiko was a little perturbed. You received quite a bit of Mashiro's favour too, haven't you, Sully? That's a completely different story, I'm just giving a logical conclusion. Hey, don't you think you're being a little too cold? You're not going to make any friends like that. Natsuhiko regretted those words as soon as they left his lips. It was essentially an outburst of anger. But Sully calmly replied, "That's fine. It's impossible for me to have friends anyway." Hey, that's not fine at all. They say humans need others in order to live. Then let me turn the question around. What exactly is a friend? Huh? A friend is someone you frequently do stuff with. And, well, you share in each other's fun times and sad times, I guess. Natsuhiko gave a general answer to Sully's blunt question. Yes, that's what I've heard friends were like. And that's why it's impossible for me to make friends. It's not impossible, is it? If you think normally, it really is impossible. Sully interrupted Natsuhiko and informed him of a truth he'd never heard before. I cannot understand other people's feelings at all, because my brain lacks that function. What? We knew that already because of the critter. Natsuhiko unintentionally gasped. But Sully, you still have emotions, don't you? Of course, even I can have emotions. And can't you just apply that to other people? No, I cannot. Even though I understand that other people have emotions, I cannot comprehend how those emotions change. That is my defect, what I lost in exchange for high functionality elsewhere. All I can do is judge whether to believe or to reject the words of others. Non-verbal and finely nuanced expressions of emotion are beyond my comprehension. And now you say you don't believe there are terrorists, and yet you're looking for Mashiro? That's a contradiction. I'm just confused about that. Sully hung her head as she finished. Is that even possible? But despite his doubts, he felt a sinking feeling in his stomach. I see now. So that's why she treasures Alice so much. Well, yeah, she said that already. Sully said that Arms was a device meant to read the moods of others. So that was why she couldn't ever be without it. If she couldn't understand other people's feelings, then she had no choice but to trust in Alice's judgment. Is it genetic? Yes, I believe so. The brain is just another part of the body after all. Just as the body has its own physical dispositions, it's only natural for the brain to have its own as well. Natsuhiko, you don't understand the feelings of trees or flowers or insects, do you? No, I really can't say that I do. It's probably the same concept. I cannot tell the difference between a human mind and an insect mind. My brain does not even attempt to process the feelings of others. That's just so sad. Natsuhiko forcibly swallowed that word down, because Sully most likely was not seeking pity when she told him this truth. But still, Natsuhiko wanted to at least say something, so he tried his best to bring some words out. BC. That's it, BC can help you understand other people's minds, can't it? Sure enough, Sully supposedly had rank D aptitude. She could learn how to use empathy. It would take a considerable amount of effort, but it wouldn't be impossible. And if she did, it would make living easier for her. Or so Natsuhiko thought. There's no hope for that. My actual aptitude is rank F. Ability's non-existent as well. Huh? Rank F aptitude specified one that was unable to use BC at all. In other words, no amount of effort would ever allow one to use BC. Wait, then why did Professor Tsubakiyama say you were a rank D? Because the Rokume Academy does not accept applicants with rank F aptitude. Dr. Tenkawa forged my medical certificate. She went so far as to do that? Sully nodded plainly. It was hard to believe, but judging by her expression, it didn't seem dubious at all. So you really can't use it? I have tried practicing in the past though. I thought that if I could use BC I could understand people's feelings. But it was impossible for me. When Mashiro was teaching us yesterday I finally got motivated again, but it's not a problem of motivation. I've long since given up. There's no way I can understand other people's minds. I came to Japan, met all of you and had fun, but at times I've also been confused and also scared. Perhaps I really wasn't meant to interact with other people. How exactly must this feel? To be unable to understand others no matter how much you try. To be the only one left out when everyone else around you reaches an understanding of what's on each other's minds. Natsuhiko was at a loss just trying to imagine it. I see. Sully's relationship to others is like the relationship between communicators and ordinary people. Once he thought about it that way, a memory of the past arose from the back of his mind. When he was young, Natsuhiko was the center of attention for the neighborhood kids. Back then, Natsuhiko loved BC. Without thinking too deeply about it, he yearned to be something special, which is why he dreamed of becoming a communicator. But right before he got into elementary school, he learned that he really did have the aptitude to become one for real. And thus it was decided that he and Mashiro would enroll in Rokume Academy. Which meant that eventually, they had to leave all their previous friends behind. People stopped gathering in the park they always played in. The only ones to stay with Natsuhiko were Yuuri and Mashiro. Huh, nobody's here today either. Why'd everybody leave? They say we'd always be friends even once we started elementary school. Yuuri spoke up after Natsuhiko and Mashido muttered those words. It's because we're communicators and the others are ordinary people. Huh? They might be scared of us reading their minds. Since Yuuri was 2 years their senior, she likely had a better understanding of society, particularly the social implications surrounding communicators. What's up with that? I don't get it at all. But we can't even use telepathy yet. They could do nothing but deny Yuuri's observation, which only made her smile sadly. That's true, but still, just because we know that doesn't mean we can convince them to believe it too. Natsuhiko just couldn't comprehend what Yuuri was implying. But he took her words and facial expression and engraved them into his heart. And that was possible. Possibly the first time Natsuhiko began to feel that he couldn't understand what was on other people's minds, but he was still okay with that. If he acquired the skills of empathy to read the minds of others, then he'd be able to understand the feelings of those who distanced themselves from him. At least that's what he'd hoped. The second major turning point was the incident 9 years ago. No, no, no! Yuuri used to be calm no matter what the situation, but that all changed after the incident. I don't want to go outside, I hate it, I don't want to go. Don't make me leave, let me stay here. Natsuhiko found himself stunned and dumbfounded when faced with Yuri's refusal to leave the house. Yuri's transfiguration made Natsuhiko sad, dejected, and regretful to the core, as well as a little frightened. Ever since then, Yuuri had stopped going to school, and her BC ability never improved. And Natsuhiko lost the motivation to train his BC as well. For if one day he were able to read Yuri's mind, and what he saw there was resentment towards him, then he'd probably never recover. While he did want to know what was in her heart, his fear of actually knowing far outweighed his curiosity to know, so instead he swore at the very least to watch over her, even if his oath was worth nothing more than a pittance of atonement, even if staying by her side had nothing to do with actually understanding her. Even now, Natsuhiko could not completely cast aside his fear of other people, his fear of knowing what lied in other people's minds, and his fear of knowing what clouded his own mind as well. That was why he kept his distance from his classmates. But how is it with Salyu? He thought back to the day she transferred in. Salyu avoided the other classmates and sat in her seat all alone. Does she avoid everyone in the same way that ordinary people avoid communicators? That was somehow similar to what Natsuhiko did, which is why he couldn't help but say, "Don't tell yourself you weren't meant to interact with other people." Huh? It's true that we can't understand other people's feelings. We all have times when we're confused, times when we're scared. But we should still consider other people's feelings, shouldn't we? Natsuhiko thought that perhaps he wasn't the most qualified of people to speak on the subject, but regardless, he continued. Right now, as I speak, I'm trying in my own way to consider your feelings, Salyu. But is it really pointless for me to try? So can you tell me anything about my feelings? No, I can't because I'm not you, see? Right, so in the end it really was pointless. You're wrong. When I say we can't understand each other's other people's feelings, I don't just mean you and me, Salyu. Nobody truly can. Huh? It's not just me, but everyone? Yeah, that's right. After all, there are so many different things between you and me, our genders, our abilities, and so much more. There's no way I can understand your feelings. And I'm sure that's a universal truth that applies to any two people. Natsuhiko could not hope to know what the world that Salyu had observed it, and thus, neither could he hope to have a complete understanding of her feelings. The same went for Yuuri. Even with empathy, the best he could ever hope for was a glimpse of the small facet of her mind. And that's to say nothing of his fear and learning something he shouldn't. He'd always thought this way, but don't you think we should still try our best to understand each other regardless? Natsuhiko vocalized an idea that he himself had always been rejecting. But as he vocalized it, he gradually became more and more aware of how it was an idea that he'd originally always held. You don't need a full understanding of what's in another person's mind, but as long as you keep striving for it, in other words, as long as you keep other people in consideration, then I'm sure things will turn out for the best, both for you and for those you interact with. And unless you afford that kindness to others, nobody will be kind to you, will they? That's the first time anyone has ever said that to me. Well, it's the first time I've ever said it to anyone too. You're strange. I didn't have the slightest idea what thought processes led you to say something like that, Natsuhiko. Yeah, you don't have to understand that either. I don't? That way of thinking is just a lot less stressful, isn't it? Salyu hung her head as if in deep thought. She eventually looked up and asked Natsuhiko a question. So basically it's saying that the reason you can frantically search for Mashido while simultaneously cursing your name... Huh? Yeah, exactly. Because of the unexpected turn his conversation with Sully had taken, Natsuhiko had forgotten about Mashido for a moment. I don't understand what she's thinking, but unless I find her and ask her myself, I'll never get a chance to understand never get close to understanding her feelings, will I? Is that what it means to worry about someone? Yeah, probably. I'm not a fucking scientist, I don't know. I see. Sully nodded with that and continued. I still don't understand. I don't understand how your feelings are causing your words and actions to contradict Natsuhiko. But it did make me happy to hear that people in general can't understand other people's feelings. It helps a little to know that. Thank you. Natsuhiko was startled by her honest expression of gratitude. It wasn't anything you need to thank me for, really, it's just... Just what? Nah, it's nothing. Natsuhiko swallowed his words. The words were, even if people can't come to an understanding, perhaps they can come to a compromise. He didn't say it because he thought it might just confuse Saliu again. And then after Saliu stared blankly at Natsuhiko for a while, she suddenly glared at him, as if remembering something. That said, I worry about you too, Natsuhiko. Huh? Why? The way Mashido blindly accepted unclear information and the way you're aimlessly chasing after her seem much the same in my perspective. Yeah, that's true. It's not like you'll find her by searching blindly. So first let's calm down and think about a way to find her. I'll help. Yeah. Natsuhiko replied enthusiastically to Saliu's proposition. And with that, we're going to wrap this one up because we're out of time very much for today. But I assume Mashido is headed to Labo. So that's where we're going to be going, I imagine. This is where it's all going to go to shit, I suppose. We haven't really found out the exact details of the 9 years ago incident as well, which I'd like to see in full, hopefully. But hopefully we'll see that soon too. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.